So, hello everyone, and welcome to this latest episode of the Historical Linkages podcast. I'm Sean McCarthy, joined once again by Tasha Smith and by Sarah Warden, by our special guest today, Tulley Paul. Tulley, thanks very much for joining us today, and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we're sorry that Tasha and I are sorry that we can't be there with you today. We're attending the International Indigenous Tourism Conference in Winnipeg. So, and I wanted to let you know, we saw you twice yesterday in videos that were being played here at the conference. So it was really nice to see. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Today, Tulley, we're just going to talk a little bit about, again, some of your travels that you've taken, some of the experiences that you've had, and some of the lessons that you brought back here to the Miramichi. So I guess in the interest of full disclosure, I'll also say, Tulley, you and I met when I was in grade 4. I remember you came into Nelson and you talked to us, you talked to my class about the First Peoples and about the Mi'kmaq. And I remember that. That was obviously quite a few years ago, but yeah, it was. And like I say, we got the chance to work with one another a little bit at Beaubears and talk a little that way. So. But I'd be interested, like I say, and I'm sure Sarah and Tasha as well, to hear a little bit more about your story and your travels.
Yeah, Sean, it's good to see you again. Now that you're a lot taller than I am. Back then, you were a little shorter than me.
That's true.
But it's an honor to see you again, and it's an honor to be with you all here today to talk about our Indigenous ways of life, our culture, and our beliefs. You know, this is what brought me to where I am today. Because back in my day, there was a lot of struggles in those days. We didn't have much to live on back then, and we didn't have electricity or no running water. So we had to make sure we had those kind of things. We had to get our own water, from the well or from the forest. But now, when things got even a little harder, we were taken away from our homes, and put into a residential school. And back then, when you're just a little boy and being taken away from your parents and your brothers and sisters, we're all in a very hard place. And we weren't allowed to see our sisters, and we weren't allowed to see our mother or parents for a whole year. Only Christmas time, maybe 1 hour, if that. But once we came out of that residential school, when we were there, we weren't allowed to speak our language, and we were beaten every day. If one person went to bed in our dorm, everybody got a beating. And that resulted to my alcoholism when I left there. When I left there and came home, and there was nothing, to fall back on, because our culture was stripped away from us. Our language was stripped away from us. Our way of life was stripped away. And it was really a hard go for a long while, I should say. And I think what brought me back was finding out our ceremonies once again. There was a few elders now who revived our culture and our ceremonies, and the sweat loss ceremonies, the drum and the singing. That's why I carry my drum, I carry my eagle wing, and it's really brought me back to who I am as a Mi'kmaq. I'm a Mi'kmaq. I'm very proud to be a Mi'kmaq. I speak my language fluently now. Before I couldn't, but I had to learn. I had to relearn the language again just by listening to our elders and our parents once we got home again. And now today, I go to a lot of schools and places to talk about our culture and our language and our ceremonies and our land. Our land is who we are as Mi'kmaq people, because we survived from the land. We survived from the fishing, the forest that we hunted and gathered, the medicines that we needed, and to make our sweat lodge. So everything is all connected as we are as Mi'kmaq people, as indigenous people. So that way we don't go extinct. Because once we lose our language and our ceremonies and our ways, we will not be no longer, we have to continue to revive our ceremonies. We have to continue to teach our ceremonies and way of life. Our culture is education. We have to educate the people, the world, as who we are. I had an opportunity to travel around the world. I worked with the United Nations for a long time, and we were trying to fight for a seat in the Senate so that we would have a voice. And once we went to Japan and with all the spiritual leaders of the world, and we were all asked, what would you want to bring back home? And we talked about that we would be able to restore our culture, ceremonies, and our language, and it should be in the school curriculums and tell the right stories, not the Hollywood version, but the real stories of indigenous people of the land. So I had the opportunity to travel around the world, and I met some very, very good, interesting people along the way, like Bruce Springsteen. He wanted a spirit name. So I done a spirit name for him at the Madison Square Garden in New York. And his spirit name, he was so happy. And when he got on that stage and when he started singing and when he started playing the band, it was like thundering. So, and his spirit name was Thunder and Eagle. So he was very pleased with that. And along with other people I met along the way, not to brag, but to these people acknowledge us as indigenous people. They're very proud of indigenous people, like Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, Mary Shape Carpenter, Joe Ely, Chris Christopherson, and Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, like we played in movies with them and stuff like that. So to me, at that time, that show came out, Dances with Wolves, and the indigenous people were being held up high in regards of who we were as survivors, as warriors, you know, as givers, as we give our teachings and help the world to understand who we are as indigenous people, because we're very unique people. And the Mi'kmaq people are very proud and very noble people. And we got lots to offer to the world and lots of good teachings, as it says in part of the prophecies, that we all have to get together, red, white, yellow, and black. There's no room for racism or hatred or jealousy other than love. And we have to continue sharing that with the world, because the world is such in a dismay now. There is so much confusion, disease, and wars, and famine, and all the floods, and climate change is happening so fast, and new diseases are popping up. So today we have our ceremonies. We have our sweat lodge ceremonies to heal the mind, the body, and the spirit, and also the change. Change is so important that we have to change our mind so we have the same mind-like thinking, as we are all one upon Mother Earth, because the water of life. Without water, nothing would survive. Without water, we will not survive. The animals will not survive, and we'll all get sick. So we have to protect Mother Earth, and the world must know. All these big corporations, everything, they're going to have to do their part too, because what are we going to leave behind for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren? We all have that responsibility. We all have that duty to speak out for Mother Earth and to speak out for one another. We have to continue to work together as one, for we are all brothers and sisters upon Mother Earth. We're here for a short time, not a long time, but we have that time to do something right and to leave a legacy, a good legacy behind for the future of our children, the future of our future leaders. Right now, we have to address to our leaders today, the world leaders, that we have an obligation. We have responsibility. We have our duties to make things right.
Thank you so much, Tully, for sharing that story. And also for, like I say, I mean, for being such a great ambassador, for our community, for the Mi'kmaq community. I mean, for the human family in many ways, you know what I mean, to all around the world. Like, it's so inspiring. Like I say, the message that you bring, wherever you go. So like I say, I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Sean, very much. For me, it's an honor coming out of the depths of the trials and tribulations in my life, what I went through, you know, being an alcoholic, I died twice, went to the spirit world and brought me back. And to be able to share my story and to be able to contribute to our society and to our communities and to work with our leaders. And, I work with a lot of leaders throughout the world and our chiefs and national chiefs and our leaders in our communities and our frontline workers, also our healthcare workers, the people in here in Miramichi, in the surrounding areas, and all throughout the provinces of our Indigenous territories, that we have to continue to educate one another in a good way, in a democratic way, so that way we can understand one another and not to put blame on each other, but other than bring each other up and work together in the most fashion and the most positive way, in the best way we can do.
Absolutely.
And this morning, the tobacco was offered. Each time when you approach an elder, that tobacco is so important. I mean, I don't smoke or drink or do drugs, but the tobacco is so important that we offer to our ancestors, so that way we offer to our Creator and our grandmothers and the grandfathers of the four directions and our Mother Earth. So that way we can speak the truth, speak honestly from our hearts, and to be able to represent our ancestors this way also in our Creator and our Mother Earth. It's so important. When you do this, when you offer that tobacco, the spirits respond in a very good way, and they want to work with us. So we have to work with them in the most respectful and the most honest way, the best way we can do. So thank you, Sean, very much. I know we worked together before a couple times, and at where you worked at the Heritage Place there in Nelson. And It was an honor to meet you back then, but it was an honor to meet you when you were 4 years old, and to see you're following your journey, and you're following you're following your steps of your ancestors too, trying to bring things forward in a good light. And it's good to meet all of you too. I forget your name, the lady there, sister. What's your name?
Tasha.
Yeah.
You're Tasha.
Oh, Tasha. Yeah, nice to meet you, Tasha. And sir, what's your name?
Sarah, what's my name?
Oh, that's Sarah. Oh. Well, I was myself too. I think I was talking to me. And sir, what's your name? I'm looking at myself.
Oh, we need laughter anyway.
Oh my God.
We need that laughter.
But you remember that laughter is good medicine, and also heals the mind, body, and spirit. Sometimes I work with Ground a lot, and I do a lot of drumming and singing. For yesterday, we had our sisters with all their drums, and they sang very well, very strongly, and it brought a lot of happiness and joy. And so when you bring that to any community, people respond to that, and they want to be part of that. And also, I work with NBCC. I'll be there on the 21st, 22nd for the students there who are cadets for training to be RCMP. And I really enjoy, and I belong to a cancer society. I go where the Great Spirit sends me, and I'll be there. And that's my life now. This is what I do. I didn't have much education in my life, to be honest. As far as I went was grade 3 because of the residential school. And when I came home, I didn't want to be part of the school anymore because of the wrongdoings that was done to me. And then the day school came in, and we were again punished again. So that kind of triggered the the hurts again from that. So my father said, "You might as well just work in the woods with me because you're not getting along with the teachers or anything like that there." So, but I learned from my father. He was very, very knowledgeable. Very, very strong in his ways. And then I learned a lot from just by the experience in the world. With our communities, surrounding communities. Like Nadwaanega, Exconobadiches, Sabuktuk, Passamaquoddy people, the Wolastoqey people, Ojibwe. I traveled the world. I went around the world about 8 times. And to see all these beautiful people have the same idea in our minds to bring awareness of peace and wellness and friendship with one another and to be able to work together. So there's a lot of things that we accomplished from back then and then now. Like back then we started 1979 to 80 and finally, everything started to open up again to revive our culture and our ceremonies and our language, and our dances. Today you see a lot of powwows throughout Turtle Island. You can go to Nadwaane, Esconobadich, El Sabuktuk, Pabano. You get lots of powwows throughout Turtle Island and all the way to the United States to Arizona, even South America. This is our spiritual way of life. It's not a religion, it's a spiritual way of life, and it's a way of finding ourselves, finding peace, and to be able to walk upon Mother Earth with open arms and, your eyes open and your heart feels good because there's people watching, there's children who are watching, they need to know who we are as Indigenous people because that's who they are. So the language is who we are. Our land is who we are. We have to let. That's why we say we're on unceded territory here in Miramichi. This is our land to begin with. Of thousands here, 10,000, 11,000 years ago, our people were here. Mi'kmaq people were here. So and all throughout Turtle Island. It's not saying we're going to take the land back from anybody. It's just that the acknowledgement is so important, and that we work together, and let that be the truth, Let truth be known as who we are as Indigenous people. We love all peoples, red, white, yellow, and black, and that's what makes the medicine wheel. We take one away, one color away, so it's going to be out balance. So we have to continue to push for the truth and reconciliation about who we are as Indigenous people and love one another and take good care of each other, and be safe because there's a lot of diseases out there now, that took a lot of people already because of the COVID and all this new diseases popping up. So what's going to save us is our Indigenous way of life, our ceremonies, our medicines, our spirituality, and our kindness and our love for one another. So no.
That is so true, Tulley.
Of course.
And one of the things I was saying that you're one of our change agent here on the Miramichi, in First Nations community. You started fundraising and doing things for the Mother Earth Lodge. And through that lodge, you brought a lot of culture, a lot of activities. And through you, I met the Rockefellers. They were one of the contributors to the lodge at the time. And you're like a groundbreaker for a lot of things that have happened here on the Miramichi. So I honor you and I respect you for that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was a vision I had. I was fasting in Montana, and an elder put me way up in the mountains, and it was just once he told me, he says, "You fill your sacred pipe and pray." He said, I want to see an eagle flying above us. I want you to pray hard." So as I was praying, holding my sacred pipe, I prayed, asked for the eagle to come and join us in the ceremony. And all of a sudden, the elder, Jerome Forster, he tapped on my shoulder. And he said, look up. I looked up and there was an eagle circling around us. He circled around 4 times and he flew down the mountain. And he got up, he said, "See, you can do that too if you believe in yourself. You believe in your prayers. And then he left. Then it rained and hailed for 4 days. When he told me when I came back down, he told me that's you have to be strong for your people. You be very strong for your people because there's so much stuff that's coming your way, and you have to be strong. So, and when I got down on that fourth day, and he gave me some medicine to drink, and then he said we're going to a place called the Sundance. They're just bringing in the tree. The tree they just cut. They didn't touch the tree. Didn't touch the ground yet. They're carrying it out. So when we got there, he said, "I want you to cut some branches and make a thunderbird nest, and tie that bundle on the nest, and say a prayer for all the people there." So we did that, and then they put up the tree, and he said, "Now you got to dance for 4 more days." I said, "Okay." So I did that. You have to follow the spirit. What they say, you're going to be okay. That's what the elder said. Don't worry, you're going to be okay. Don't think about anything else. You're going to be okay. That's all you need to know. And that fourth day was done. It was awesome. A lot of people got very good healing, and their community got stronger. A lot of people got stronger and came back to their ways, came back home to their culture, their ceremonies, and their language. That's why it's so important to continue to teach these ways of life. And my brother George Paul, I have to acknowledge him, and a couple other elders, Migaman, and there's Clarence Patlas from Nadawakaneg, and Burton Ward. There was a lot of elders that I have great respect, like Albert Ward, from Nadawakaneg. He was. We always pass each other on a plane going someplace, and he was going to a teaching, so I was going to another place to teach, and Albert, we always smiled at each other and waved, and as we got on our way. So we have to acknowledge our elders, our true elders, who were the pioneers that brought a lot of teachings and to help to restore our culture and ceremonies. And I have to mention also my good friend Joseph Leonard. He does a lot of teaching, and he helps a lot of people, a lot of brothers. That's so to acknowledge all our brothers and sisters who have been doing these ceremonies from the beginning. A lot of us had a rough go here and there. We might have stumbled a little bit and fell, but we got back up and dusted ourselves off and kept on going, and knowing how important our culture, our language, our ceremonies are, and our dances, because our future, the children hold our future in their hands, and so we have to give them that knowledge and the wisdom. That knowledge and wisdom. We have knowledge keepers, wisdom keepers, medicine keepers, sweat lodge keepers, pipe carriers. We all have that. We know what to do. It's like a song my brother sings. We know what to do. So there's so much to learn and to share too. Like it's just there's no other way to look at it. It's just the way who we are as Mi'kmaq people, or Unug. Unug means all indigenous people throughout Turtle Island and upon Mother Earth.
Hmm.
The Mi'kmaq language I find is very beautiful, and I wonder if you can, because our podcast is worldwide, right? And maybe you can share some of your language, maybe share some inspiration, because as myself being the net person, I hunger the language, being away from the speakers of my culture, speakers of my language. So maybe you can share some of your words of Mi'kmaq to the others out there.
Thank you, Sarah. Also, I want to acknowledge Sarah too, and I know she has beautiful culture where she's from there. And I traveled to the Southwest places in Arizona, Sedona, First Mesa, Second Mesa, and met a lot of elders there, like Thomas Pella, and there was Thomas Baniaka, and the cultures and the language and the teachings that they gave us as we share one another. And that's so important to do, from culture to culture, or the nation to nation, I should say, that we share our culture that way. And when I was doing my ceremonies in Akiva, in Arizona, Thomas Pella, he was praying in his language, and he told me, he said, "You pray in your language, because the Creator will hear you, and we're inside Mother Earth. Mother Earth will hear you, will hear your language." Now, do you bocht je asa de mij nasa de mij mega mooi geduk. En wij goal deed ik, ben ik aan nach wij geluk een tinnek. A geluk anki de zwaar niet ga. De ik aan jenis kam nu ola hem in een giskoek. Ola niet ab ik Thomas Pella. We go met de wat je go bisqua. Asa de ma. Asa ma uchi dan de so te imagine met je waji kisigu imagine ga wisis. Mi mesh ka am sukoi da mi magic. Na wij goal deed ik in quiz na ik op de joen tea de lose. En ik me matje weji be. Dat na den kabaj. Am so asel mari guys in week tuk. Mega mooi ik tuk. En ik giskuk da ik dan elie ik la mega mooi ik tuk. Ai moedi ik la met de banaya kis na nadwa nek. Kis naelse boek tuk kis na knobe dus. Dan des ook de mega ma he moedi ik la ze hamo asa de mai. Den jenis kam na ba mooi ik. Daar je sal ik. Jiglates win chikwe doubt dinen. Daar je sal ik jenis kam nu. Jiglates win chikwe in den nek akelo anki des wa na mi desnen. Ik bij week daar je sal ik jenis kam nu. Which in chijamajam. Asa de mari en nie which in mega jua. 60 wisnen dasen man. Dan der so je mega jua ankwe week nie en kich mega jum in kwejik. Daar je sal ik dan der so je ebje game moet je la se khamo. 60 wisnen dasen man. Ken met hem nek. Walali het. That's my motorcycle.
It's a timer for the time to come to a closing, I guess.
I guess so. I guess so. With the sound of the revving engine, you know what I mean. That's our cue, I guess.
I was wondering where it's coming from.
Oh, anyway, that's it. It's
Okay,
always
yeah. Anyway, that's in Mi'kmaq people, like our language is so unique, and it flows like the water, you know, when we speak our language, and that's why we're so connected to the river. Would you die? Na see them ook. Al die ik see them na ja se them out diek. Ach, we boek al mi magic. Maar wisten de gunno. En mi achta night ada mi magic wen. Ada wist the one. You'll never go hungry when you're with the river, because we know how to fish, and the river is our stronghold. That's where we go to pray and we offer the tobacco. You know, so our language kind of flows like the river, and it's such a unique language. It's a beautiful language, you know, one of a kind. You know, like Mi'kmaq people.
well. As we draw to a close, Tulley, once again, I really want to thank you for sharing with us, you know, your message and your experiences and your language. It's been great to see you again, and I hope to see you again in person very soon. Before we go, anything more that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would like to sing a little song. It won't take long.
Please go right
If
ahead.
that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just to give that teaching as a, you know, as a drum keeper. I can take all this stuff out. I got more stage here.
He's got another motor in the bag.
But what does the drum represents to you? Anybody know out there? The drum represents the heartbeat of all nations, the heartbeat of our children, our elders, the heartbeat of the Creator, the universe, Mother Earth, all living things. This song is in song. Wasquita Chiganoma, Blood, and then meet which traveled about the meet I wish we'd chicken is coming, blood, I wish we'd chicken Oh, that song, what it's saying is that Wesquidajik means our people are coming. Wesquidajik Norma, our relatives are coming. There's a gathering going on. That's so important that the children know the songs and the history of the songs and what they mean. And not only our children, but the people throughout the world. Because we have to come together and bring that goodness back into Mother Earth.
No question about it. And like I say, looking forward to the day when, as you say, Tulley, we can all gather together.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to thank you once again. And on behalf of my colleagues, wish you all the very best. And to all of you who are listening, thank you very much for joining us. And we will see you once again in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks.
Thank you all very much. May the Great Spirit bless you with good health and happiness always. I hope.